Hello my crafty friends, it's Krista here from Second Chance Creation. First of all, I'd like to welcome my new subscribers. Excuse me. And I hope you find some of my videos inspirational. And that's, I think, what the crafting community is all about. We just learn from each other and yes, and then whatever we learn, we create our own from that. Very cold morning. It was -3 here at BonnyAndClive, New South Wales. I was up very early. It's about 5:30, and it wasn't quite as cold as it got to 6:30, 7 o'clock. Freezing. So, I'm presenting to you my Blue Grunge journal, and totally hooked. That's all I can say. Yes. So this will be listed in my Etsy store as well, and I'm going to leave that link below in the description box. I thoroughly enjoyed making this journal. And let me show you the front cover of this, and I'll just zoom out a little bit so you can see it a bit better. There we go. Now, you would have seen this on my previous video. I'm sure I've showed this on my previous video with my altered paper bag, and I haven't changed anything I haven't done anything to it. So as you all know, it is now attached to my skin, which is 5 layers of tissue pattern paper, and the last layer is done with some very heavy coffee dyed lace, very sheer lace. The texture is absolutely beautiful, and I didn't cover the spine because I sewed this with my sewing awl and with crochet cotton because it's a bit more stronger than anything else. So yeah, so you would have seen all this, and I'm not going to go through it because I won't have enough memory on my card on the phone. This journal is wrapped up in a really nice soft blue organza, which I just ripped into shreds, and I've singed the edges with a candle so it won't fray on you, and just to go with the blue. And I've decided to make a few more of these journals because I've got quite a few cover toppers that I made a while ago, and I'm going to alter them a bit. So they're going to be like a green, I'm going to have a yellow, I might have a red, and I think it'll just go really nice with this grunge look. So the tie is just wrap around, quite easy, nice and soft. It's attached with a bronze style eyelet. You can actually take it off because I've only put a little bulb pin and a little bit of a bling on there, so you can take that off if you wish. It stands up on its all by itself. Like I said, it's just beautiful. The only thing I changed on the front, because it had square corners and I was going to roll them, decided not to, because I decided to round all the edges. So I've rounded this with my fancy scissors. Everybody's been asking me how I've done the pages. There you go. This was in an op shop for 50 cents. And I've just lightly inked. I just rubbed the ink over the top just to see the blue tinge come through, and that's how I've done it. So let's venture in. Now I have stitched right around it, as you can see, so you know, it definitely won't come apart. Nice and squishy, one signature, sewn in with my sewing awl. So let's have a look. And here is this vintage handkerchief that I had, which is part of, no it's not, that was a handkerchief, this was a doily. So, sorry, that was a napkin. Oh, I'll get it right soon. This was a napkin. So, linen napkin that I heavy coffee dyed. Inside of the cover, I've left it as is so that you can actually see the pattern paper. And all I've done is popped on some beautiful sheer lace. I've made a little tag with one of my skins. I popped on this pretty little picture. On the back, I've actually put my skin onto my coffee dyed paper so you can actually journal on it. Bit of fabric, a little bit of inking, blue ink, and I've sort of penciled around the edge, and then I've just shadowed it. Bit rough, I think, but I like it. I like the look of it. This here is like a little paper clip that was gifted to me a couple of years ago in some Happy Mail, and it had a little peg on it. So I took the peg off, took the bling off, and yeah, and it's actually like chalkboard. So if you're going to give this to someone, or it's going to be your journal, you know, you can just pop a name on there with a bit of chalk. I thought that was pretty cool. Here I've made some, it's one of my waxy paper, and I scrunched it up, and I just inked a little bit around the edges, but of course it won't stay on there because it's wax, and it's a bookmaker's note on there, and that just goes on here. The reason it's that colour, because I've waxed it with lavender candle. Okay, now if you don't like heavy coffee dyed paper, this video and this journal is not for you. Because it is very heavily coffee dyed. Look at that yumminess. And how I did it, I'll explain it to you as we go along. Look at that. So I didn't require much stamping. I've done a little bit, but not much, because the paper do the talking, don't they? So here I've done a little bit of stamping, and it's just not stamping. Yes, stenciling. I've just used this little stencil that I found in the op shop. And I've left a lot of the threads on, and I've just put on some seed beads. I'll just see if I can zoom in. And popped some seed beads on it, just for a bit of interest. Okay, and a bit of fabric. This was a altered envelope, and I chopped it up. I wanted to use it, and I'm using it as a little flip out. It has one of my altered paper clips on there as well. And I've popped on a little vintage button. This is the painted paper towel. This is a piece of very old cardboard, bit of dictionary paper, pattern paper, bit of a trim from that linen napkin that I've got, and I've just popped on the button, and it's just backed onto 2 pieces of coffee dyed paper, and this was just a little scrappy bit, so that just goes on there. And then that just goes back on there like that. Okay. Here's some more yumminess. Now, another altered paper clip. And this holds, I used a bit of corrugated cardboard just there, wax paper, the tissue dressmaking paper, and just a bit of that trim that I had left over, and this old vintage button. And that's backed onto, like I said, corrugated cardboard with coffee dyed paper. And that holds this little envelope that you open up, okay? We've seen my last video. Also, I've done a skin, and what I've done is I've covered a very, very old piece of music book page that you couldn't do anything with it except strengthen it with this tissue paper, with this dressmaking paper. Used one of my ruffles, a bit of scrappy fabric, and I made a little tuck spot there for the ticket. This is the little postage stamp that I got from BonnyAndClive. She has a catalogue with all these old stamps, and she actually popped them on some scrappy fabric. So thank you, Bonnie. And I'm going to leave Bonnie's link below for you to have a look at her shop. And that just goes back on here. I had a page that accidentally torn, and I kept it because I like the look of it. Here I've done a bit of stenciling. Here's a piece of book page that I flipped up, made into a pocket, and I decoupaged a napkin on it as well. And of course the book page I sewed around before I attached it to the page. Here I've used one of my beautiful lace trims, coffee dyed, made this really sturdy tag, just pop that in there, and look at this yumminess. I mean, you know, whew. Okay, so how I did these, we have a breezeway that goes from my craft room to the house, to the bedroom, and I usually do the papers outside. I hang them off my wash line or just throw them on the grass. But at 60-kilometre winds, that was not a good idea. So I used some plastic drop sheets because we're doing a bit of painting in the house. And I've got so many packets. So I've used 3 packets through drop sheets, and I scrunched them all up and just more or less just threw them on the floorboards, and just sort of made it so that they sort of, you know, up and down and very uneven, not flat or anything. I then dunked my papers in my tray of coffee, and then just placed them randomly, my paper, onto the drop sheets. So some papers might be up, some papers might be down, some papers might have pools of coffee on them. Above is a small wash line, and that's where I hung my laces and my appliques on while the papers were drying downstairs underneath. Hence all these marks, okay? Once I lifted the papers when they were half dry off the sheets, they left more marks because of the plastic. On some of the paper, I've actually popped some doilies on top because I was running out of my little wash line, and hence all the markings, more markings. These little bits here is when I trimmed the pages, I trimmed them over the coffee date pages, so it looked pretty messy, my little area. And as it dried, and once I took all the little bits off, it left all these little marks. I'll just zoom in a bit so you can see. So it left all these sort of little marks on there. They're all the scrappy bits of paper. Of course, I had to take them all off. And yes. So here's an envelope. This envelope was part of the, had little gifts in it from Bonnie and Clive when I purchased her stamp. So Bonnie, I've actually used it, so I'm not hoarding it. Little scrappy little notepad I've popped in here. This was gifted to me a while ago, and I've just made a little tuck spot collage of book page, and that was a napkin, and I just stitched around it. Now this here is a bit of wallpaper, and was a trim because I did the edging and I didn't want to waste it, so I've just popped it in there. And look how this page turned out. I had a doily. It was already like a yellow coffee dyed doily, but the yellow still came out because I placed it random doilies onto the papers because I was running out of my washing line. And it left this beautiful, beautiful image, okay? But, yeah. And I did a little bit of stenciling, but I didn't do much because the pages, you know, are just so colourful. Here's another little piece, little white piece that you see where my scrappy little bits came off when I did the edges, and it didn't get colour, but I, you know, puts a bit of interest to the paper. Book page, decoupage with a napkin, and I've made a tag from one of my skins, and I backed it onto a piece of index card that I had floating around, and the skin I just wrapped over to the other side, didn't want to cut it off. And this is the little trim from the napkin, and I've attached this tiny, I'll go this way, this tiny little, oh look, it's not very big, it's the smallest safety pin I've got, and I've put a little seed bead on there. Went around with my sewing machine, and I got the little stars on there. Which they are, aren't they? And of course, all my threads that I've got left over, most of them I've attached my seed beads on, as you'll see just there. Okay. No, I'll do it this way. There we go. And they've all got this little star there. Here's one of my waxy papers. Now, as you might remember, I did some plain brown wrapping paper, and I waxed it, and then I put it through my embosser. And I've only have one embossing plate, and that's the pattern, so you'll probably see that. Here was the doily that I had on there, and different one again, and you can only just sort of see the pattern there. And I did a little bit of stenciling. This here is just bubble wrap. I put a bit of ink on my bubble wrap, and I just just put it around there. I only have a couple of stencils, so, and this is a stencil, and this is this one here. Used a paper clip just there, and there's a reason for that paper clip. We'll see in a minute. This is on some corrugated cardboard, tapestry fabric, paper ruffle, some hessian or burlap, pin. This is a paper bead, and the inspiration came from Raelie from Crfts from the Dungeon. I'm going to leave her link below in the description box as well with Bonnie. And yeah, so I thought that lended itself quite nicely. And that pin has a paper clip has a purpose. I've put a little bit of paper rough on there, and that has a purpose, so that you know that is an extra page to flip out. And I've just put in some scrappy fabric here, a little bit more of my, scientific stenciling here. And yeah, so you've got plenty of journaling space, and I didn't want to cut that bit of thread off, so I've put another one of my little seed beads on there. And of course that's why that paper clip is, just to hold those pages. Okay. Here I've used a little stencil. This was a free gift, one of my orders of bowl pins that I had, that I received. Were the bowl pins? Yeah, bowl pins and my glue. And I tried a little bit of the black, the blue, and a little bit of pink there. Here's the other. This paper I think was ripped as well, and I've just ripped it a bit more. I don't know where that came from, because I didn't have anything pink. So unless there was something pink in something, I've got no idea, but I thought, hey, let's use it. Little book page tuck spot. This was gifted to me in some Happy Mail. I think it was sometime last year. Had the little lady on it. So I've just put some lace on that and used one of my cloth fabrics. Okay. And then I've just made this little scrappy little notebook just in here. Just so I can jot some notes down. And that just goes in here. Fingers are still cold. Can't believe how freezing it was. And that just tucks in here. Okay. Now this is the wallpaper, and as you can see, what I've cut off here is what I've actually put in one of the pages here earlier. This wallpaper came out of a farmhouse here in Raelie. Very, very old. The house was built in the early 1900s. And this was found in the caretaker's cottage, which is a real shack now, and it was found in one of the old cupboards. So you can imagine how old this is. I did not coffee dye this. This is, how it is, how the condition it's in. It's very sturdy. You can write on it. And I just edged it with my scissors. Here's my altered paper bag that you would have seen in my previous video. I haven't done anything to it. The only thing that I did do to it, I added some book corners on both ends. Reason being is because you can stand this journal up, and I wanted to protect the corners of the paper bag. Tucks of the tabs I've left the same. I've strengthened the spine with some of that pretty little old fabric, coffee dyed fabric, one of Bonnie's stamps, and this trim was on an envelope, which of course I took off, and I took the tag out that was in here. I've put it somewhere else. Yeah, nice. And look how this came out. Don't know where that came from, but yeah, so my little tuck spot here, used one of my little fabrics just here. And I had a piece of skin left over, so I attached it to the small index card and made a little notepad out of it. And you can write on this as well. Little fabric flip, and then I've used my string and just popped the little bead on that. Here I've made a little flip you can journal on. It says the third day. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got 4 days now. A little bit of stamping here, and that was, this little thing here. And look, here's some more of those scrappy bits of paper that left marks. Oh, a little bit of stamping, bit more stamping, some more of that wax paper, and look at this. This was a doily. Made a little collage belly band just here. Here's another one of those scrappy bits of paper that come off. And yeah, I did a collage and I put it through my embosser. Backed it on some. I did a collage on book page, and then I've put it through my die cut machine to get that shape. I then put it through and put my embossing folder did the embossing, sorry, and then I just attached one of my papers, coffee dyed papers, and that just flips in there. Here's another one of that. I don't know. Yeah, so that must not have got coffee dyed, just how it was sitting in the drop sheet. Here's a little flip, lace flip. Just love this. Very heavily coffee dyed. Some more. So I didn't think it warranted itself to do too much stamping because the paper does the talking, doesn't it? Look at the colour of that. Same here again. So you can see a little twirly bit of, then what was that? Must have been something in there, I can't remember now. It's unusual. Here's the other side of the envelope, and there's the other tag of Bonnie's. And this little envelope was floating around. It was part of a Happy Mail as well. And we'll just put that on the back because the window of the envelope is on the back. And I've popped the little eyelet on there, bit of bling. And then you can see that little flower just on there. See? Belly band. Love this very pale pink lace. Made a belly band. Again, used the string for my seed beads. Made a collage of music paper. And a little fabric flip eyelet. And used the same lace. That is from here, but it was a narrow version of it. And you can journal on the back. A bit more stamping, and that's the other side of the lace. Just like all the effects. Book page, envelope, and I've put in, I had a bit of skin left. Didn't want to, didn't want to discard it, so I've kept it, left it on the paper, and made it into a little writing spot, and you can actually flip this up as well. Okay, and this one has got a little collage on there. This actually here, this one here is contact paper. This is book page, fabric, and then I've got my baby wipe where I've cleaned my hands with, and it had all the inks, and that's why it's turned out that way. And little button, and I had a little piece of burlap string when I frayed it, and I've used that to, sorry ladies, and I've used that to thread through the button. Isn't that cool? And that's decoupaged with a napkin. Just zoom out. Some more of my stencil. And this was when another page was on top, okay, because I sort of crossed them over, and that's why you see those lines just there. Here's the other side of that piece of paper that just broke. Made a little pocket with this beautiful little fabric, and this came from BonnyAndClive. I think it was in some Happy Mail a long time ago. Only got a very small piece, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Made a little tag. It's a little fabric butterfly. Little fabric label, little really old vintage button, and a bit of coffee dye lace down here. And you can journal on this, and this pops in here. A bit more stenciling. Getting to the end. Here is the altered envelope. I've made a journaling card here. Used one of my ruffles, but I used the printed side. And on the back, you can just take out the whole piece of paper to journal on. And then I had another piece left over, which was I did on the oven tray a long time ago, and I just threw that on with the others, and that's how that came out, the drops from the wash line. Oh, and here's Sophie playing with a bone. It's here, and I stamped handmade with love. And here's a bit of bling, big journaling card. This is an applique of a doily. Backed it onto some book collage of dictionary paper, which is backed onto some cardstock. Covered it with some lace, and this was an earring, and I just love it. I thought, oh, how cool was that? You can actually put a string, you can actually put something, attach something on there, and another really old vintage button and pocket. And you can see this is still the paper, and I've just left it. I just really like it. And like I said, you can take the tie off because it's just attached with a bolt pin. Now, this journal will be in my Etsy store. I have burnt the midnight oil on this journal to get it finished. Just love it. I'm going to make more of these, but in different colours. And just to give you an idea of the size, it is 22 centimetres, which equates to about 8.5, about 14.5 or 15, which equates to about 6 inches. I'll just have a look at this again. 22.5, yep, about 8.5. It has one signature. It has 22 pages, which is 44 front and back. Lots of journaling space in there, and very sturdy, very squishy. If you like heavy dyed coffee paper, and you like grunge, this one is for you. So I'm going to leave the link to my Etsy store below. I'm going to also leave the link to Bonnie and Clive and Raelie from Crfts of the Dungeon. They're both very fantastic recyclists. And until next time, you know what you got to do. I'm doing it today. I've got a busy day outside. The sun is out, starting to warm up. Until next time, bye for now.